a memo.
Yeah, so it means our heart will flow today.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm happy to be here.
Okay, there's no problem. Thank you so much. And of course, you can join the conversation. Hashtag GBS Morning Extra. That's on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And of course, 21144. That's on our SMS line. We'll be sampling some as we continue with the show. We're going straight to the newspaper review. Today we are changing the tact. We started the newspaper, then we get back to news updates later on. We start the Daily Nation. Shock and fury over MPs plot for FT parks. Kenyans react to the nation expose of plans by members of parliament to reward themselves 17 allowances that could raise their salaries to as much as 2.9 million per month. And there's also a story of school riots blamed on disconnect. The National Parents Association should be funded to bridge the gap between the parents, teachers, and students. That's according to some members of parliament. And of course, former EACC director faces 89 million probe. That is Ms. Jennifer Kimani, a former finance director, is at the center of the watchdog over payments she made while working for Kenya Rural Roads Authority. And Timothy, this story of MPs, not the introduction of the 98,000 night allowance, has sparked a lot of reactions to Kenyans, and especially how the MPs are usually united when they talk about their parks. How do you make of that story?
Yeah, I mean, whenever it comes to what benefits our good legislators in the August House, we've always seen that, and I don't think that would take anyone by surprise by now, because it's been a trend. Whenever there are important laws that are supposed to be passed where Kenyans in general are supposed to benefit, we've always seen a divided house. But whenever in the name of representation or in the name of representing their constituents, but whenever there is something that is, you know, they all have like a common denominator, something that concerns themselves as legislators, then you'll always see them speak in unison, in one voice, and it's always actually almost they themselves, the legislators, versus Wanjiko. And so, to me, Tom, that does not take me by surprise.
Okay, so you're not surprised at all?
I'm completely not surprised.
And this parliament will go down the history as one of the worst parliament we've ever had in the country. Remember, we all know them for all bad reasons. Remember when they were passing the finance bill, after all the fracas, and even after we heard clearly that the nays ended, still eyes ended initially. That's what was ruled. And then the chaos in parliament, and of course, look at now. That was the most important bill than the allowances that they're talking about. And now the shift has now gone to the allowances.
I mean, it's really saddening, but I also think that it's high time that Kenyans don't put too much expectation on the parliament, on this particular parliament. However, partly Kenyans need also to ask themselves these questions. Who did we elect, or who do we elect? Because at the end of the day, Tom, it's me and you who put these guys inside that, you know, August House. They didn't put themselves there. It's me and you that went and queued on that very day, and we cast our votes to elect these leaders. And if you can remember very well, the most contended election in the past election, general election, was the presidential election. Of course, with a few gubernatorial, you know, races or elections being disputed here and there, which were finally solved in court. We had some constituency level elections that were also solved in court, and most elected leaders did not face any challenge in court, meaning they were rightfully elected. And so this brings us back to ourselves. Who do we elect? What kind of leaders do we put in place? And when these leaders come to us to sell their manifesto or to sell their idea, what is it that we have as priority to vote them in? And so I think, Tom, Partly Kenyans are also to blame, but then I believe, and I want to believe strongly, that they have learned their lessons and that they're watching this parliament. And it's really unfair that, people put their trust in you and elect you into a position, a constitutional office that has a mandate that actually stipulates your job, but then when they get to parliament, the kind of legislation that they've been passing, not many Kenyans have really been happy, and most of the time we realize that most of the legislation that have been passed in this august house particularly have not always been to the favor of Wanjiku. It has always been to the favors of the MPs or some legislation that is very important.
It seems we voters, we forget so fast because this is not the first time this is happening.
Sure.
The first term, that is from 2013 to 2017.
Yes.
We had also the same cases in parliament, and to maybe for surprise, majority of those members of parliament were elected again back to the house. It seems like Kenyans, we don't really monitor what our MPs do, and if we do, it seems that we forget too fast.
I think we have a goldfish. I like to say this. I like to call this, Kenyans are suffering from a goldfish syndrome. A goldfish, they say, its memory lasts for only 3 seconds. So it will come here, you'll scare it, or it'll miss a hook by a whisker and run away. 3 seconds later, it's back biting at the same worm that almost took it away. So, yeah, Kenyans mostly to blame, I would say.
Okay. Back to the, still in the issues to do with parliament, That Way Alliance leader Ekuru Aukot has come up with a proposal to amend the constitution. And also he has proposed the reduction of the number of MPs and abolish the woman representative and the deputy governor positions in the East Punguza Mzigo initiative. And the Electoral Commission will conclude the review of the data captured from 1.4 million Punguza Mzigo signatures in 2 weeks. And it seems Ekuru Aukot has a point, or he could have a point, but unfortunately, how many Kenyans will listen to him?
They say where there's smoke, there is a fire. And we, as much as we may want to ignore what Ekuru Aukot is bringing up, but then, Tom, there's one reality. This is a guy who has actually vied for the presidency of this country, right?
Yeah.
So we are not looking at a newcomer in this field of politics.
And actually, he was among the committee that drafted the constitution that we have right now.
Exactly, he was part of the COE, the Committee of Experts, and he was a key member of the same commission, during the time when they were with the likes of Atsango Chesoni and the rest. But what I would want to say, Tom, is that, such proposals have been there. We've had, proposals to change this constitution, not just from people that would like to, brush away like Ekuru Aukot. The leader of opposition, if I may call him that, Raila Amolo Odinga himself, and his group, the kind of amendments that they are calling to the constitution, they're actually looking to reduce the number of elected senators and members of parliament.
Yeah, there have been an issue of over-representation.
Exactly.
They're saying that we have a member of parliament, we have the county member of parliament, we have women rep, we have the governor, and we have the deputy governor, and then of course on the top we have the president, deputy president, who represent the same Wanjiku. So do you also need that? Do you also think that we need to restructure our form of government, because it does not make sense to have a member of parliament from the constituency level, then have a county assembly, a member of parliament from the same level representing the same person?
If you'd ask me my opinion, Tom, I think that we Kenyans get bored very quickly and we like new things. So I don't know if this is just another adventure that Kenyans want to take, to see if they are actually able to amend this constitution, soon as we just pass the constitution. And if we, this is actually, we've had a third, how can I say? We've had a third election, right?
Yeah.
A third, is it the third or the second election after?
The
After the promulgation of the constitution.
You have very two, then the one was nullified, the presidential one.
Exactly.
So, they went back
So
to the
it means that, Tom, we haven't had this constitution for a very long time. Of course, laws are meant to serve the people. But then again, when you look at it, the idea of reducing representation in terms of members of parliament, but the bigger problem that I have with this amendment is that always, whenever they do their proposals, like when you look at the Star today, they are talking about the 2/3 gender rule, women to get direct tickets in proposed law. Most of the people, like what you read in the Daily Nation, most of these proposals always target specific groups. And even if they look at reducing some numbers in terms of representation, they are not very genuine, in my opinion. They are targeted to cut down on a particular area. But then when you look at that, you realize one thing, Tom, that at this moment, what I would like to say is, so far, for myself, I would say MCAs are doing a great job. MCAs are doing a great job. Yeah. And the idea of devolving, devolution was meant to reach down as much as possible to Wanjiku, to the ground. And with the office of the MCA, we are now actually able to reach down there.
Okay. So we should concentrate more on funding the MCAs to remain majority of the projects.
Yes.
And probably, instead of having the members of parliament, probably we have the Senate to make laws for the counties.
Yes and no. Tom, I think the biggest mistake that we did is when we drafted our constitution, there's some areas that we left gray. There are some areas that we did not touch on. Areas like right now we have this continuous debate that keep occurring. Last week it was so loud about who is more superior. Is it the Senate? Is the Senate above the National Assembly? And when you look at such arguments, Tom, it's really bad, because you realize that when we talked about a bicameral house, we are talking about a two-hump house, right?
Yeah.
But probably there's one hump that is higher than the other. And of course...
But it's not clear which one.
Exactly. It's not clear. And that's the mistake that we did in this law. So I think what we need to do is go back to the Constitution and define these roles clearly, so that
there's also a question of a woman representative at the county level. Woman representative is elected by the whole county. Probably a big constituent compared to a member of parliament. Then how they end up in the same house is still not clear.
It was about, the 2/3 gender rule, again, that we ourselves set in our constitution. And it all trickles down to affirmative action, Tom. The reality of the matter is this, that in a culture that we have, in the kind of culture that we had as Kenya, women were still not really represented. As much as we would want to assume that women are represented, women are really still not represented. And that's why the creation of the position of the women rep, coming from sitting in the same house with the MPs, right, meant that I think those are some of the areas that with time we can actually amend. But then I don't think that it is right now for us to actually strike out the position of women rep. As much as there are proposals,
some will argue.
As much as there are proposals, actually, like what I just read here, that, okay, let's give them more direct nominations in party, at party level. Yes, but still, we need women representation. And truth be told, people don't really vote for women. I don't know why.
But the reality is, inequality will never end. So as much as we say nominate them, remember, there's also the question of political seats. They should not be gifted. That's not a gift. You are supposed to serve the people.
Of course it's not a gift.
We should give them a level playground. Together
which Tom, doesn't...
We have seen women who work hard and have got this. Look at the case of Kirinyaga.
A very small number.
Look at the rate of Kirinyaga. Yes. I think women need to be more aggressive instead of waiting for them to be gifted.
Women are very aggressive.
That's a debate. Look at Kitui County. Governor Ngilu won against Malombe, an incumbent, and it's a woman.
Definitely, yes.
So look at Joyce Laboso.
Let's be honest. Those are few questions. I mean,
It's not
look at
few. They need to start from somewhere. I think they should also fight for their seats, not to wait until they're given.
Women do fight. I'll tell you this, women do fight, all right? And as much as women fight, still we will have to agree and admit that our society, our culture still does not give these women. I know of numerous women who have made numerous efforts to actually get elected seats. And also, this is something that trickles down even in appointments. You realize that, go to a country like Rwanda, I would say. The Rwandan president, Paul Kagame, stunned the world. And as we speak today, Rwanda still stands to be one of the countries in the whole world that has the biggest representation, even in appointed seats. Look at Kagame's cabinet. We have more women. Look at the parliament in Rwanda. We have more women representation. And that's why I'm telling you, Tom, it's not that Kenyan women are not trying. Actually, Kenyan women are some of the most aggressive women in the whole world, in all spheres, in politics, in business, every sphere. But the culture today in Kenya still does not allow these women to, be put at the rightful place. So I wouldn't really blame women, but what I would say is let us not rush into removing such provisions. As much as we want to do some amendments to the Constitution, my advice would be let us look at the Constitution and do definitions, clear definitions, and give clear mandates, and this will help.
So as much as we want to restructure our governance system, we would think we should retain the women representative seats.
The women representative seats should be
and then scrub some constituencies.
If we can, yes. Go back, which has also generated a lot of debate, Tom, the issue of demarcation, because if we are to reduce the number of representation in terms of constituencies, it means that we again have to go back to the boundaries, right? And then, do
there's
boundaries.
There's a question of who will accept his constitution to be scrubbed.
It's not about who proposed for his constituency to be scrapped or to be merged or to be created. So
okay, still in that constitutional review, the Standard has given it a splash here on their front page, and they have also highlighted the MCS Senate back to one-term presidency, Punguza Mzigo initiative. They want that's a Kuru Court and that way alliance. They want to introduce a 7-year term presidency, reduce the number of MPs from the current 416 to 147, elect one man and one woman from each of the 47 counties to the National Assembly, abolish nominations in county assemblies and Senate, elevate Senate to be the upper house with veto powers, increase counties' revenue to 35% from 15%, replace CDF with reward funds, life sentence for culprits guilty of corruption, abolish position of deputy governor. Now, let's start.
Which is very interesting, Tom. I will want to start with that.
I don't know the debate here actually. I don't think this is a debate that will end soon. Let's first of all talk about introducing one 7-year term presidency. I heard yesterday he was talking about how the incumbents have led this country to chaos. He elected from 1992 for 202 from 207, and then the previous election. He said maybe one-term presidency would do Kenya justice, or to some extent. What do you think of that?
Again, Tom, I want to disagree with Kenyans because, as I said, the remarks I made earlier, Tom, and I stand by that. Kenyans are very experimental. Sounds like a very good idea. But then, Tom, if that is not really outlined clearly, then we are looking at another problem. Having 7 years, I don't know, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know of any country that has more than 5-year term. That is, if I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected. But what's the difference between...
Rwanda had 7.
Rwanda had 7, of course, and there were the changes in constitution continuously, which also attracted a lot of criticism from, the international community and also the opposition, because many people are saying that Kagame pushed for these laws to actually be amended so that he can stay in power more. And remember, Kagame has been around since he took the country from, since the 1994 genocide that took place in Rwanda. The guy has been in power ever since. And I'm not here to criticize Kagame, because when you look at the country today is one of the most stable countries in Africa. But then back to our case, right? Tom, I don't see a difference if we would give a 7-year term to someone and a 5-year term. I mean, if a leader is good, let him be elected after 5 years. That's my take. This is experimental, and this is something else. If we can define and if we can clearly, outline our laws and make everything clear, then we wouldn't have to think of amendments after every 10 years. I mean, it's hard and it's sad, but I don't want to discuss that much. There's something you mentioned there and touched on, areas that I think Kenyans need to focus more on. I tend to agree with one point, however, there with a couple of points about corruption and corruption laws against or on people who are found to be corrupt. And also, there's another proposal there that I had about deputy governors. I mean, clearly, a county like Kiambu has been operating with a deputy governor who is there but is never there. Last time we had him make noise in the media. He cannot remember the last time he attended a cabinet meeting. He is a deputy governor. And in Nairobi, we had Polycarp Igathe who left office, and
up to now, there's still
nobody is talking about that. Not even the legislators in the Nairobi, county
but
assembly.
It seems we are not filling the gap. So
I mean, yeah, definitely. If governors can run alone without deputies, then I mean, so be it. Then such positions we can scrape off, because we have 47 governors. We have 47 deputy governors. So
a majority of them don't know what they do.
Exactly. If the role or the mandate of the deputy governor is not clearly defined, then why do we have to pay those 47 extra guys those millions of shillings that we do every month, and which also translates to a huge amount in terms of how much they do in a financial year? So those are some of the discussions that Kenyans should
do you think this proposal might maybe be a problematic, because how do we set the question? Because it seems we want to change a lot of things at once.
That's what I'm telling you. I don't agree with each and every point that have been put in that proposal, but some areas I can pick and say, yes, these are areas that are key, that are of great concern to us as Wanjiko. When you look at the situation, Nairobi has been operating without a deputy governor. Kiambu, the same. We have other counties also where the governor and the deputy governor are not seeing eye to eye ever since I don't know when they were elected in office. And the county governments are working. There is accountability in some county governments. Of course, there is a lot of misgivings here and there when it comes to management of funds in many county governments. But still, if we can work without such, these are some of the areas that we need to look into, Tom.
Okay.
Yes.
So you are supporting and you're not supporting?
Yeah, some sections.
Where are you standing exactly?
I mean, I can't totally agree with everything, and I made my point very clear that some areas I do agree with, some areas I don't agree with, and that will be my stand, Tom.
Okay. Let's look at the Star. The Star is talking about pupils to be taught to detect bombs. Proposed law is due for second reading in the National Assembly and enjoys broad support. Schools will soon be compelled to teach learners about anti-terrorism, how to detect explosive and react in case of an attack. If a bill in Parliament is passed, the bill introduced by Turkana Women Representative, that is Joyce Manikor, seeks to reduce the risk posed by bombs, especially imposed explosive devices. A couple of weeks we have had issues with the education sector. It seems like every day we have a new twist.
Sure.
And now they want to teach students how to detect bombs.
I would say these are diversionary tactics. These are not things that should be even put out for debate. Tom.
Our parliament again.
Exactly. These are not things that should be put out to debate. These are things that Parliament itself should be lobbying and sell this, create civic education, and just explain a little bit about what do we want to do. It's not something that needs to be debated for a long time. I would say these are, when you go to some countries, of course, Kenya have not known conflict, like serious conflict, in terms of when life-threatening conflict, apart from times that we have like electioneering period. We remember the 1997, the likes of the 2007 and 2008 post-election violence. You know, just pockets here and there. But then generally, when we talk about, you know, bombs, and it is a fact that we may not brush aside that recently there's what we call the, you know, fight against terrorism, which Kenya has also gotten itself into, given that there is this faction, or there is this group called Al-Shabaab next door in Somalia, also, which is a really debatable issue, which not many people want to talk about, Tom. I don't know if I can just put this to our viewers. Before the year 2002, yeah, before the year 2002, before the Kenya invasion into Somalia during the Kibaki regime, where was Al-Shabaab? That time we were tackling people called pirates, who are actually hijacking you know, ships in the high seas. Of course, they crossed borders, and they were coming now for, you know, foreigners who are, we say, tourists. One, you know, it's a very key area in terms of building our economy. But then before that, where were these guys? They were never there, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at problems like, if you can look at the basic of such problems, we can have our own definition of fighting terror. We can have our own approach of fighting terror in terms of renewing our relationship with our neighbors. But coming back to this proposal that is being put, you know, of teaching pupils how to detect bombs, it sounds so ambiguous to me, Tom, because do they wear metal detectors, or do they wear bomb detectors? It sounds like a funny question, but these are things that can be taught to us. These are public awareness campaigns that can be done by the government. The government can take the initiative to do this without putting this out for debate. So to me, if you would ask me, if we go back to the real issues, right now we are still grappling with the issue of whether standard 3 or grade 3 students should be, you know, how they are to be examined, or how do we say?
Subjective national examination.
Exactly. And class 6, we're still grappling with such. And the new system, clearly, as it comes, it is something that is not really clear to us, but these are some of the areas that we need to define first. And once we are able to define these areas, we are able to cluster and see, what have we not been teaching? What have we been teaching? And so such things will fall into place. So, Tom, if you'd ask me, that's not something that really should be hitting headlines. I mean, should be published in
should be in Parliament. That
yes.
is,
yes, Parliament can discuss it and pass it because it's a law.
But it should not be a bill.
It should
I
not.
don't think it should be a bill. I think maybe my focus should be on maybe training all students about managing on crises.
Not just students. Even Mama Mbogas need to
know how to tackle these things.
Common people need to know how to detect bombs, because even our security. I remember one of our one female journalist stations in Kenya did a story where she had a small firearm just right behind her waist on the back, and walked right into a mall. And we have all these askaris with metal detectors, and they're screening through, and she makes her way into the mall with a gun. I think if there are people who should be taught how to detect bombs,
these private security agents. Yeah.
Private security agents should be taught how to do that, Tom.
Okay. Also, the Star seems not to have they're just given focus on that, and also touching on Ministry launches probe into Nairobi school bullying case. Mm-hmm. The Ministry of Education has launched investigations into claims that are formed to Nairobi school students was bullied by prefects and sustained brain injuries. Mm-hmm. The issue of bullying is something that maybe people might have thought that it is under the bridge for now, but it seems like it's still there, but in a different fashion. First of all, what do you think of empowering some students more than the others, and yet they are all students?
Yeah, following closely, I heard you last time when you had some guests in studio and you were discussing a similar matter where we have prefects who are being given more authority over other students, fellow students. And I think there's a saying that goes, with every mantle comes a responsibility. I think how much responsibility we give or authority we give to students really depends on how much discipline they are, and also really depends on how much understanding they have of the role that they've been given. Because clearly, these are young people, same age as the people that they are leading, or maybe same age group. And so I think empowering some students more than others, yes, we need to empower students, those who have leadership, qualities, and those who have shown interest in leadership. But then too much power to these young people is really detrimental, I would say, to some extent. And no, I will agree with you, Tom. Bullying is not water under the bridge. It is still happening, and with such cases, it's very sad that such cases still happen. And I believe that it's not one time, or teachers also need to take responsibility, because I don't believe that such cases are not reported to them before they reach to that extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there must be a student who maybe had enough and went and reported to a teacher, and probably a teacher just ignored. And that's why we can see such extremes where now prefects or the said student leaders, leaders are actually able to go to that extent of even incurring physical injury to another student.
I know the issue of disciplining the students, I think it should be left to the teachers, not fellow students.
Not fellow students, I would say that. I would totally agree with that, because teachers, even if they're not parents, at least they are adults. They've gone through the needed training to understand how to handle a child or a student in that matter. And so to some degree, I think students' authority or power should be limited as much as they are prefects or dorm captains and so on and so forth.
Okay, and as a parent, does this instill fear? Because I believe you might have some of your, maybe some of the students or maybe family members who are in secondary schools. Mm-hmm. Does this maybe trigger some fear? Because majority of the parents have their students in boarding schools, and maybe some students don't talk about these things when they go home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's something that is of great concern, because, Tom, as much as we will want to discipline our children, I have children myself, but then I talk to my children. I don't always spank them. Yes, sometimes you spank them to show them the gravity of the mistake that they've done. But then let that spanking come after 2 or 3 warnings. But then even the spanking comes with responsibility. You don't spank a kid because you are angry. No, you spank a kid to show them that what they have done is wrong. Because again, even as a parent, when you apply anger in spanking a child or disciplining a child, then that becomes a big problem. Remember, we had cases where teachers, also inflicted physical injury to their to pupils. And to some extent, I think those are some of the things that contributed to the abolition of, a corporal punishment. But then, should we stop spanking our kids at home? I don't think so. Should we stop in schools? Yes and no. If we have responsible teachers,
it's a question of,
yes.
It's not an issue of maybe punishing the student. It's a question of who is doing it.
Who is allowed to do it.
And how to do it.
And how to do it. Thank you for giving me those words. Those are the words that I lacked in my mouth. And that's exactly what I was saying. Okay. I don't spank my kid because I'm spanking them to show them that what they have done is wrong and is not acceptable. Okay. And when you're doing that, you're instilling discipline with that sober approach, then it's really difficult for you to inflict physical injury, because first you assess, where to spank. So it's not a matter of just spanking. And in the case of a kid getting, an injury in the skull, inside the head, it means the person who was inflicting whatever punishment they were really did not care and must have hit him either with a blunt object or have pushed this person and they hit their head maybe on the floor or on another object or a cupboard or something. So it's really something that needs to be looked into. How and who, like you said, is really important.
Okay, thank you so much. We are taking a quick breather, then we come back and talk about free state market in Africa. First of all, do you think Africa we are on the right track, or
I think
it's too late for us?
we are on the right track, and we should have been here like many years ago. Personally, there's one leader that I know who really pushed for this, a trade unionist, a politician, and a man who was really vocal in terms of intra-Africa trade and Africa for Africans, the late Tom Mboya, who was a great champion of, Africa coming together and doing our own thing. And I believe that wherever he is in his grave this time, he should be very, not, I would say, mixed reactions. He should be like, hey, you guys should have done this like 20 years ago. But yeah, we are heading there. So,
but it's never too late.
It's never too late yet.
Okay, we'll discuss that when we come back after the break. So we are taking a quick breather. On the other side of the day, we'll be discussing our free trade market, and you can also send your opinion. What do you think about free trade in Africa? Do you think is now the time to open our borders for our friends in different countries and also to do business as one unit in Africa? So our SMS line is 21144, Twitter hashtag GBS Morning Extra as usual. See you in the other side of the break.
Win up to 100% cashback when you pay with your Equity MasterCard. Simply use your Equity MasterCard to pay for shopping, food and drinks, fuel, online transactions, or any other goods and services at any outlet displaying the MasterCard or Equity Bank sign, and you could win up to 100% cashback. The more you pay, the higher your chances of winning. Pay with your Equity MasterCard today, and you could win.
Right! Ninani! Ninani! Carry on! Hola! Genius DJ! Genius DJ! Genius DJ! Genius hype man! Wow! It's bigger, it's better, it's live. I'll be your host, Ipola the Experience.
Genius Republic DJ Karian.
Join us for Ekomziki each and every Sunday from 8 a.m.
for the best in gospel music as we host your favorite gospel ministers.
Every Sunday, live on your favorite station, GBS TV. Boom, 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 boom.
Everywhere GBS. Everywhere GBS. Everywhere GBS. GBS. Everywhere GBS. Everywhere GBS. Everywhere GBS.
Good morning once more. This is GBS Morning Extra, and thank you so much for keeping it GBS this morning. Remember, you can join our conversation, hashtag GBS Morning Extra, and 21144. That's our SMS line. And we are now going straight to news recap. And we start the Deputy President William Ruto assassination claim. It has taken a new twist after PS Karaja Kibicho as tells of Ruto supporters over claims that he and some cabinet secretaries are plotting to assassinate the Deputy President.
The Deputy President claimed last month that Kibicho and cabinet secretaries from Mount Kenya have been meeting to plot his assassination ahead of 2022 at Hotel Amada. The Deputy President has yet to record a statement, and the cabinet secretaries mentioned Peter Munya, Cecilia Karoki, James Mashari, and Joe Musheru have refused to record statements until the Deputy President does so. Kibicho, while assigning a borehole at the Shauria Moyo AP camp, said that claims behind alleged plot are baseless and useless imaginations.
I had hoped you would ask me about the flow of water because that's what brought us here. I would be very reserved in responding to useless and baseless allegations because they are under police investigation.
The Deputy President claimed last month that Kibicho and Mount Kenya MPs have been meeting to assassinate him ahead of 2022.
That we have some brains better than what we are hearing. And it's unfortunate that our country can occupy space of media talking about imaginations.
He began the attack on Deputy President, saying that he had not received any formal complaint on the assassination claims.
You know, I hear assassination claims. Who has complained? You know, I'm yet to hear someone who has complained. And I think it's better that we stop creating things that don't exist. The moment we have a claim like that is formalized, not to embarrass us, then it's dealt with in accordance with the law. And I don't think for us as a ministry, we will be distracted from doing our work.
Itumbi, in an affirmation, claimed that he had audiovisual recording of the alleged meeting by the cabinet secretaries at Hotel Amada, but the principal secretary told journalists that a time had come for Kenyans to focus on facts.
Yeah, just saying that, Your Honor, with your assistance, I would want to play, because it would assist all of these things they are trying to investigate, the video of the meetings, because it would prove that a member who works for my bosses has actually threatened the life of the Deputy President.
We must be a country that is led by logic and facts and truths.
Ruto and Kibicho have not seen eye to eye since 2013, when the Deputy President and his close allies accused the principal secretaries of working with the ICC to ensure Ruto was jailed. President Uhuru Kenyatta, Deputy President, and other 4 Kenyans face crimes against humanity charges at the Hague-based court. The cases collapsed, but Ruto and his supporters have continued to accuse Kibicho of working behind the scene to block his 2022 presidential bid. Esther Rithera, GBS Morning Extra.
And now to capital markets. And Nairobi Security Exchange has cracked the whip by banning some of the top CEOs involved in the Kenol trade scandal.
Stock market trader Ali Khan Sashu and ex-Kestrel Capital Chief Executive Officer Andrew De Simon will pay cash fine and subsequently serve bans from holding critical positions in any capital market authority license. Sashu, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Rich Management, will pay a fine of 4.69 million Kenyan shillings, being the commission he earned from illegal trades, and consequently serve a 3-year ban after CMA found him guilty of commencing an irregular trade of Nairobi Security Exchange-listed Kenol Kobil's shares ahead of last year's takeover announcements by French company Rubis. Desimon was slapped with 2.5 million Kenyan shilling and a 1-year ban for disclosing a price-sensitive non-public information to Sashu and fellow stock agents Kunal Bid. The regulator found that Mr. Sashu and Mr. Bid transacted about 59 million Kenol Kobil shares on behalf of the clients in the week leading to the offer on the back of the information received from Mr. DeSimone. At an average price of 14.20 Kenyan shillings in that week, the shares were worth 855 million Kenyan shillings. The traders stood to pocket a potential gain of more than 470 million Kenyan shillings, taking into account the 8 Kenyan shilling premium that Rubis was paying on its buying price of 23 Kenyan shillings apiece. The investigations and convictions are unprecedented both in small and large scale in the Nairobi Security Exchange history. Emmanuel Ouma, GBS TV.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel Ouma, for that story. And now to education matters. And Education Cabinet Secretary has proposed a new way of funding the high school students that will be subject based instead of what has been given priorities over the years.
The government wants to change how it finances secondary school education by abolishing uniform fee and instead focusing on subject costs. This would mean that students taking STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, and maths will get better funding than those taking other subjects, hence their school will receive more funds. These subjects require more equipment and facilities, such as laboratory equipment, than subjects such as history, sociology, and economics. Each learner will be funded based on the subjects under the new curriculum through a system called differentiated unit cost. The DUC system is more applicable to secondary schools as the new curriculum allows learners to begin specialization at senior secondary under the new curriculum. The pathways are STEM, arts, sports, science, and social science. The proposal, the second version of the document, is before Parliament's Education Committee and must be adopted by the House and assented to the President. It is one of Education CS Professor George Magoha's options to solve the financing problems and resource gaps in schools that undermine learning.
And now to business and heads. Africa heads of states have signed a deal that will see off establishment of free trade areas in Africa, opening up business for the whole of the continent and across the borders.
African heads of state have launched a continental free trade area that seeks to unite 1.3 billion people and create a 349 trillion Kenyan shilling economic bloc. The African Continental Free Trade Area was launched on Sunday during an African Union summit in Niger. After 4 years of talks, the agreement to form a 55-nation trade bloc climaxed in March this year. Ghana is to host the headquarters of the blocs, and talks were held on how the bloc will operate. It is hoped that African Continental Free Trade Area will help unlock Africa's long-steamed economy by boosting intra-regional trade, strengthening supply chains, and spreading expertise. African Continental Free Trade Area launch included a roll call of honor where 27 countries that have ratified the instruments of new bloc were announced in addition to those who have signed but are yet to be ratified. 30 heads of state gathered in Niamey, Niger, to witness the official opening of the landmark agreements. Emmanuel Ouma, GBS TV.
And being on Wednesday is all about business, and today our theme is free trade in Africa. Our reporter Emmanuel Ouma had an exclusive interview and discussed more about what these free trade areas means, especially for Kenya and the whole of Africa. But let's now look out for this report in Biashara Review.
An incredible day indeed. Thank you very much for tuning in. Welcome to GBS Biashara Review. In this program, we endeavor to give you all the insights in the world of business. Okay, Lamek, on Sunday, somewhere in Niger, 30 heads of states of Africa converged to launch the African Continental Free Trade Area. What is a free trade area? Let's start from that point.
Okay, a free trade area, we can say, first of all, we can say maybe the smallest or the least level of economic integration. This is a situation whereby countries in the same geographical area come together with an intention of reducing barriers to trade. Here mainly we consider things such as movement of goods across the. So the aim of nations here is to reduce taxes among themselves with the sole intention of increasing trade among all the trading partners involved in that free trade area agreement.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So Africa had got a dream, and this dream was started when they were launching the Organization of Africa, that was way back in the 50s, where they converged somewhere in Addis Ababa, right?
Yeah.
The likes of Julius Kambarage Nyerere, the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, Jomo Kenyatta, and the likes, they had a dream of coming up with a free trade area. Why did it take so long to do that?
Of course, we have to look at the situation back then. Of course, as we know, it is very difficult to differentiate between economics and politics. If we have a good political background, then economics automatically becomes very easy. The situation of the African leaders by then could not make this thing to be possible.
Of course, the pact has been signed by 55 countries. Nigeria is an economic powerhouse in Africa. We know that. It is the largest economy so far, right?
Yeah.
And why did it take so long? How did it view itself to get into this African continental free trade area?
Okay, number one, I will talk about the current situation of Nigeria.
Yeah.
You see, look at the citizens. Look at their purchasing power. Nigeria has a lot of oil, you see? So these people have, let me say, among the highest purchasing powers in Africa. So if we sign, and now in this free trade area, we are trying to merge something like Nigeria and some other country like Zimbabwe, which are, let me call them economic dwarfs, though maybe you may not allow me, maybe it will be an abusive term, but if we argue based on reality, Nigeria has nothing to benefit from countries like Zimbabwe. Maybe there is a little bit of benefits, but they are very minute compared to countries like Nigeria.
But Kenya is one of the most considered economic powerhouse in East Africa.
Of course, Kenya is one of these countries that has also high purchasing power. So maybe some countries like Nigeria, if they could be merged with maybe some countries that are near the economic level, such as maybe Kenya, Ghana, Egypt, maybe South Africa, and some others, maybe it could have become very easy for them to do what, to agree. But I think with some other countries and the current situation of Nigeria, I think that is why mostly they are disagreeing, because they got nothing to benefit at all. And if they have something little to benefit, then it is not of great importance to them compared to what they are giving back.
Lamek, we have got the COMESA as an economic bloc, ECOWAS as an economic bloc, SADC that covers the southern part of Africa. Why did they go for an all-inclusive free trade area?
Of course, we have to look at the current situation. Okay, I will leave out ECOWAS. Maybe ECOWAS has been successful. Okay, but look at the others. We also, I think we have, let's come back home. We have the East African community. I think you know about that.
I know.
Though I don't know where in economics will we put something like a community. But look at the East African community. Has it been successful? No.
A little bit.
No, it has not been successful at all. You can remember the other day, our cows went to Uganda. What did Magufuli went to Tanzania? What did Magufuli do? They were auctioned. You can recall the other day, the Ugandans also used this advantage to sell, to kill our Kenyan farmers' economic status maybe. Let me use the term kill, though it sounds somehow tough, but I think our farmers are suffering because of the Ugandan maize. So I think they have not been successful. So I think they wanted to lay down new guidelines on how to do what? To come up with something new that may be workable.
And of course, don't miss the Biashara review on YouTube. You can check on our channel at GBS Kenya. And remember to subscribe, and also so that you can be getting updates about our shows that we are uploading. And of course, thank you so much for keeping it GBS Morning Extra. That's all we had this morning. And my friend Kevin Nyariki is coming up with Sports Extra to update you what's happening in the sporty world. But for now, have a good day.
There are even smarter ways to enjoy life. Just pay your DSTV account on time and unlock amazing rewards. It really is that simple with DSTV Thanks.
Tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. At Thika Institute of Business Studies, we give you an opportunity to prepare for tomorrow through unrivaled courses enhanced with practical skills.